The city of Cael'Duras sparkled like a jewel in the sunlight. Tall towers carved from white stone reached for the sky, and golden banners fluttered in the warm breeze. But beneath the beauty, deep in the lower streets, humans walked in silence, heads down, backs bent, eyes empty. They were slaves, servants, less than that to the elves. Cale Renner walked among them. His hands were stained with ink, not blood. He worked in the Grand Archive, copying scrolls and sorting records for his elven masters. Unlike the other humans who labored in fields or cleaned the streets, Cale had learned to read and write. It had saved his life so far. Still, he hated every moment. The elves called him useful, but only when he stayed quiet. They never looked him in the eyes, never saw him as anything more than a clever animal. But Cale saw them. He watched. He listened. He waited. One day, while sorting old scrolls in a dusty corner of the archives, Cale found something strange. A small leather journal, cracked and faded with age, had fallen behind a shelf. Curious, he opened it. The writing inside was not in Elvish, but in an old human language, half lost to time. Cale's heart pounded as he read. The journal spoke of an artifact hidden deep in the ruins of Thalanor, a fallen elven city far to the west. The artifact was called the Heart of Sindril. It was said to be powerful, so powerful that even the elven kings feared it. Cale looked over his shoulder. The room was quiet. He knew he should burn the book. If the elves caught him with it, he would be executed. But something inside him whispered no. This could change everything. This could be the key to freedom. That night, Cale didn't sleep. He hid the journal under a loose stone in the floor of his sleeping cell. For days after, he acted normal. He smiled when the guards passed. He cleaned the ink pots. But inside, fire was building. He wasn't the only one. In the slums outside the city, humans whispered of change. A food riot had broken out the week before. An elven patrol had been attacked. Someone had even claimed they saw a human cast a weak fire spell, something once thought impossible. The elves laughed it off. Human tricks, they said. Nothing more. But Cale knew better. The world was shifting. Slowly, quietly, like coals under ash. And now he held a spark. The sun hung low over the hills as Cale Renner slipped out of Cael'Duras. He wore a long cloak with a hood, stolen from the laundry carts. Dust clung to his boots, and sweat soaked his shirt, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. If the guards found the hidden journal missing from the archives, they would hunt him down. Torture. Execution. That was the elven way. But Cale didn't look back. He followed the map from the journal. The path led west, through dry plains and broken stone roads that no one used anymore. His goal, Thalanor, the ruined elven city lost in time and shadow. The place where the heart of Sindril waited. After 3 days of travel, Cale reached a small human village near the edge of the wilderness. Most people were afraid to speak, but word of rebellion was already spreading. There, Cale met 3 who would follow him. Sarah, a young healer, had soft hands and sharp eyes. Her mother had died under elven whips, and she carried that memory like a blade. Torin, once a soldier in a failed uprising, had scars across his arms and a deep voice that rumbled like thunder. He had nothing left to lose. And Lyra, a half-elf girl, silent and quick, who had been cast out by both sides. Too human for elves, too elven for humans. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her words cut like steel. Cale told them of the artifact, of the journal, of his plan. Thalanor is cursed, Torin said. They say the wind screams at night and bones walk. Maybe, Cale replied. But if we find the heart, we change everything. They left the village at dawn, weapons hidden under their cloaks, hope buried deep in their hearts. The ruins of Thalanor stood like a graveyard of giants. Black towers leaned against the sky, half broken. Vines crawled over stone streets. The air smelled of dust and old magic. They moved carefully, each step slow and watchful. No birds sang. No animals stirred. It was as if the city was holding its breath. In the center, they found the temple, its roof half gone, its walls covered in strange runes. Inside, a deep stairwell led underground. Cale went first. Down in the dark, They found a stone pedestal. On it sat a crystal sphere, faintly glowing red. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "The heart," whispered Sarah. Cale reached out. The moment his fingers touched it, the light flared. The ground shook. A voice filled the chamber. Not a spoken voice, but one that echoed inside their minds. "Who dares wake the will of Sindral?" Cale stood firm. A human. No one else would. Silence. Then, slowly, the light faded and settled into his palm. The heart had chosen. High above the clouds, in a palace of glass and silver, Queen Vaelor of Arellan stood before her court. She was tall and graceful, with silver hair that flowed like water and eyes that glowed faintly gold. Her crown was made of woven branches from the Everspire tree, a sacred symbol of elven rule. Every elf in the hall bowed as she walked past, not out of love, but out of fear. Vaelira had ruled for over 400 years. She had crushed rebellions, sealed peace treaties, and fought in the Mage Wars. Her name alone made enemies tremble. But today, there was unease in her heart. A message had arrived by Hawk. Another human camp had risen up, small but clever. They had burned an elven outpost. The guards were found frozen in place, mouths open in fear. No magic, no known spell, just fire, traps, and something else, something new. She sat on her throne, carved from moonstone, and opened the report. It spoke of a young human leader, a name she did not recognize. Cale Renner. Her golden eyes narrowed. "Another fool with dreams of glory," said Lord Arion, one of her trusted advisors. "The humans grow bold, but they will never win. They have no magic, no power." "Perhaps," Vaelira said softly, "but boldness can be dangerous." She turned her gaze to the map stretched across the table. Red markers showed her cities, her strongholds. Blue marks showed the growing human unrest. Too many, too fast. The queen rose and walked to the balcony, looking out over the shining city of Cael'Duras. From up here, the streets looked perfect, clean, calm, controlled. But she had not forgotten the past. Long ago, she had trusted a human, loved him, and he had betrayed her. His name was lost to history, but she remembered his face, his smile, the way he said her name like it meant something. That betrayal had shaped her. "Never again," she whispered. Back in the hall, a guard entered with a prisoner, a young human woman with a bloodied tunic and a defiant stare. She had been caught near the outer walls with a map and strange papers. The guard shoved her forward. She was trying to reach the old roads to Thalanor, he said. She wouldn't speak. Vaelira studied the girl. "You know Cale Renner?" The girl raised her chin. "I'd die before I help you." The queen smiled faintly. "Brave. That's new." She waved her hand. "Take her to the cells. Feed her. No harm yet." When the guards were gone, Vaelira turned to the court. "Find this Cale," she ordered. "Find out what he wants. If humans believe they can rise above their place, then it is time we remind them. The stars chose us, not them." But deep inside, a question grew like a thorn. What if the stars were wrong? The night was cold in the hills near Velden Watch, an old elven fortress now, patrolled by young soldiers who had never seen real battle. They laughed around their fires, sure that no human would dare attack. They were wrong. Hidden in the trees, Cale and his small band watched with quiet focus. The heart of Sindral pulsed softly under his shirt, its warmth spreading through his chest. It did not speak in words, but he could feel it, like a second heart, pushing him forward. Beside him, Torin checked the small vials on his belt, each one filled with a thick red liquid. "Alchemist fire," he said. "One drop burns hotter than the sun." Cale nodded. "Don't waste it." On the other side, Lyra slid a blade from her sleeve. She barely made a sound, her half-elven features hidden by a black scarf. "They won't see us coming." The plan was simple. Use surprise. Strike fast. Burn their supply wagons. Leave before they could regroup. This wasn't about winning a war. It was about sending a message. At Cale's signal, they moved. Shadows in the dark. Sarah crept to the edge of the camp and whispered a healing chant under her breath, quietly numbing the pain in Cale's leg where he had twisted it days earlier. The magic was weak, but it worked. Another gift awakened by the heart. Kale counted the seconds. Then, boom. The first explosion lit up the sky. Fire roared through the supply tents. Screams followed. Elves scrambled to grab weapons, but it was chaos. Kale dashed forward, tossing a second flask into a weapons cart. Wood and steel shattered. Flames danced. Torin charged with a roar, swinging his heavy club and knocking 2 guards to the ground. Lyra vanished into smoke, her blades flashing. They weren't trying to kill everyone, just to disrupt, confuse, and show strength. Kale found a command tent. Inside, maps and scrolls lay scattered. He snatched them up, stuffing them into his cloak. Anything that could help the rebellion, anything the elves needed, he would take. As they pulled back, elven horns sounded across the valley. Too late. Kale and his team disappeared into the trees, leaving the fortress in ruins behind them. Back at their hideout, the firelight flickered across their tired faces. Sarah looked at Kale. "We did it." Kale said nothing at first. He unrolled one of the scrolls, his eyes scanning the symbols. Then he smiled. "They weren't expecting us," he said. "They still think we're weak." Torin laughed. "Let them." Kale's smile faded. He looked at the heart of Sindral, glowing softly now. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. Far away, in her shining palace, Queen Valera stared at a fresh report from Velden Watch. Her fingers tightened around the scroll. The human had struck again. But this time, he had left his name behind. Dawnlight filtered through the tall windows of Kaelduras's highest tower, creating long shadows on the polished marble floor. Kale Renner woke in a small cell, his hands bound with silken cords. His heart pounded, and the heart of Sindral lay hidden beneath his tunic, its faint glow pulsing against his ribs. He rose, steadying himself. The door swung open, and Queen Valera of Varelen entered, her silver hair shining in the morning light. She wore simple riding clothes instead of her usual robes. Proof she meant business. "Kale Renner," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "You have caused much trouble." Kale met her gaze without fear. "I fight for my people." Valera's golden eyes narrowed. "And what will you do now that you stand before me?" He stayed silent. She paced the room, her boots clicking on the floor. "Tell me why you carry the heart of Sindral. Why did it choose you?" Kale remembered the temple's low voice. "Because a human dared to believe." Valera paused, studying him. She seemed both curious and wary. "You trust that ancient power?" "I trust what it shows me," Kale answered. "A future where humans are free." Valera's lips curved into something like a smile. Noble words for one in chains. She stepped close. "Do you know why I hate humans?" Kale shook his head. "Once," she said softly, "I loved one." She touched her chest, as if the memory ached. "He was brave, clever, and then he betrayed me." Kale's heart skipped. "I am not your past." Her eyes softened. "No, you are different." She turned away and walked to the window, looking over the city. "Yet you force me to question everything I believe." He followed her gaze. Below, the city bustled, unaware of the war looming. Valera sighed. "I have orders to end your rebellion. But I wonder what else I might end." Her words hung in the air. Kale felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but something else. Sympathy? Respect? Before he could speak, a guard called from the hallway. "Your Majesty, the western gate is under attack." "Humans." Valera's expression hardened. "It begins again." She looked at Kale one last time. "Soon, Kale Renner, you will stand trial for treason. Then we will see whose will is stronger, the hearts or my crown." Kale bowed his head. "May the truth guide us both." Valera's hand hovered at the door handle. "Perhaps it will." She left, the door closing with a quiet click. Alone, Kale sank to the floor. His mind raced. He had faced the queen, and something in her had shifted. Doubt, curiosity, maybe even growth. It was a small victory, but important. He pressed a fingertip against his chest, where the heart lay. Its warmth comforted him. Outside, bells rang in warning. The battle for Kael'Daris had begun anew. Kale clenched his fists. He was still a prisoner, but the queen's words gave him hope. Hope that even the hardest heart could change. And as the city gates shook under the assault, Kale vowed, He would prove that humanity's strength came not just from artifacts, but from courage, honor, and the promise of a better world. At dawn, the plain before Kael'Daris was quiet. Then the human army moved forward. Kael Renner stood on a low hill, the wind whipping his cloak. Beside him, Sarah tended to wounded fighters, while Torin checked the alchemical firebombs strapped to their carts. Lyra sharpened her blades, eyes bright with purpose. Kael raised his hand. "For freedom," he called. 1,000 voices answered. They charged. The elven walls gleamed in the morning sun. Archers on the battlements loosed arrows, blackening the sky. But Kael's forces had learned. Shields rose. Makers of metal smoke, small machines Sarah and Lyra had built, hissed and screamed the attackers. The arrows fell into pale mist. Torin hurled a firebomb. It burst against the gate, splintering wood and stone. The defenders panicked. Humans surged forward, swords clashing with elven steel. Every step cost blood, but the humans pressed on. Inside the city, Queen Vaelira watched from high balcony. Her guards fell back as she lifted a slender hand. A halo of silver light burst around her, and the courtyard stones cracked. The elven lines steadied. She chanted in a language older than time, summoning forces no human had ever faced. In the streets, the earth trembled. Walls groaned. An invisible wave struck the humans, sending them sprawling. Kael rolled to his feet and staggered, pain flashing in his eyes. The heart of Sindral burned hot against his chest, holding him up. He looked at Vaelira. Her eyes shone with power and fear. She reached too deep into the ancient magic, and it fought back. Her hair flickered silver and white. Lines of exhaustion carved her face. Kael called to his men. "Now, push forward." The humans regrouped. Sarah unfurled healing salves that soothed wounds. Torin led a charge through a broken gate. Lyra darted ahead, cutting down the last archers on the wall. As the two armies clashed in the grand plaza, an unexpected shout rang out. Lord Arion, one of Vaelira's greatest generals, dropped his sword and strode toward Kael's banner. He held up a white pennon. "I will fight for your cause," he declared. Several other elves followed him, stepping away from their queen. Vaelira's eyes widened. Betrayal. Rage. She unleashed one final blast of magic. The air turned black with swirling sparks. But her strength was spent. The blast backfired, showering her in ash. She fell to her knees on the palace steps. Kael pushed through the shouting crowds. He reached the queen in moments. Around him, both humans and elves froze. He knelt beside her. "I did not come to destroy you," he said, voice steady. "I came to end this old hatred." Vaelira looked up, tears in her golden eyes. Her power drained. She could not rise. Kael held out his hand. Slowly she took it. Behind them, the plaza stilled. The war was over. The heart of Sindral glowed softly between them. No longer a weapon, but a promise. Kael helped Vaelira to her feet. Together, they faced the crowd. Humans and elves alike, bruised but alive. The crown of ash had fallen, and from these ashes, a new future would rise. 6 months later, the city of Kael'Daris was unrecognizable. Where once stood shattered towers and smoking ruins, now rose workshops, schools, and open markets. Humans and elves moved side by side, sharing laughter and stories under banners of green and silver. Kael Renner walked the broad boulevard that led from the old palace to the Grand Archive. He carried a leather satchel filled with books, some elven, some human, bound together with ribbon. Today was the first day of classes at the new Academy of Shared Wisdom. At the Academy's gates, Sarah waited for him. She wore a flowing green robe, an olive branch embroidered on its lapel, and carried vials of healing salve for her students. Torin stood nearby, supervising as children practiced rolling small smoke screens from mock drills, their faces alight with excitement. "Ready?" Sarah asked, smiling. Kael nodded. "Let's build the future." They entered the main hall, a high room of polished wood and arched windows. Along one wall, humans sat at low tables, learning Elven script. Along the other, elves practiced forging metal and alchemical fire calmly and safely. In the center, half-elves taught both sides how to balance magic and technology. Kale climbed the dais at the front. He welcomed the new students. This academy is not mine alone, nor Veilira's. It belongs to all of us. Here, you will learn to listen as much as you speak, to create as much as you destroy. A hush fell, then applause rose, soft at first, then stronger. Kale smiled, thinking of how far they'd come. After the ceremony, Kale stepped outside into the warm afternoon. In the courtyard, Queen Villa of Arellen waited by the Shrine of the Heart, now sealed inside stone and leaf. She held a scroll in her hand. When she saw Kale, her eyes glowed gold with gentle pride. "The first treaty between our peoples," she said, offering the scroll, signed by every leader in the realm. Kale took it and unrolled the page. Names of human chieftains, Elven council members, town elders, an unbroken circle. "We are bound, not by fear, but by choice," he read. Veilira watched him. "Thank you, Kale Renner. You showed us that courage could change even an unyielding heart." He shrugged. "We changed each other." She took his hand. "And now we must guide the rest of the world." Beyond the courtyard gates, banners fluttered, green for humans, silver for elves, intertwined. Traders from distant lands arrived, curious to see this city of unity. Diplomatic envoys greeted Kale and Veilira with respect, eager to learn how they forged peace. That evening, Kale returned to the Blackwood Inn, where his friends had built a home. Lyra served a simple dinner, bread, cheese, and spiced honey wine. Torrens sat by the hearth, telling tales of the battle that had sealed their fate together. Sarah tended a candle, painting its flame across each face. They toasted to the future. Their laughter echoed through the warm rooms. No longer the quiet fear of slaves, but the bright hope of equals. Later, Kale stepped onto the balcony. Below, lanterns lit the streets. Voices drifted up, children reciting lessons, craftsmen hammering at new metal, poets softly speaking of peace. He pressed a hand to his chest, where the memory of the heart's pulse still lingered. Though the artifact lay hidden, its lesson remained. True power lived in shared will, shared trust, shared hope. And under the moonlit sky of a reborn city, Kale knew that this new age, born from war, tempered by mercy, sealed by unity, would remain strong as long as people of all races dared to believe in each other. The dawn had truly come. 3 years after the war, peace in Kale Doris still faced challenges. The city's walls had been rebuilt with stones from both elven quarries and human mines. Banners of green and silver flew side by side, but cracks ran deep onto the surface. Kale Renner, now Lord Regent of the new council, walked through the market of voices. He greeted traders selling woven silks and forged tools. Yet his eyes always searched for signs of trouble. Rumors whispered of a human caravan attacked on the southern road. Other voices spoke of elves who still refused to share their magic schools. At the council hall, Veilira of Arellen, Queen of the Elves, joined him. She carried parchments filled with complaints from border towns. "They fear one another," she said softly, smoothing the curled edges. "They cling to old mistrust." Kale nodded. "We must show them a better way." He unrolled a map of the realm. Red dots marked human villages. Silver dots marked elven towns. Lines of trade and magic flowed between them, but gaps remained. "Let us travel together," he suggested. "Visit these places. Listen to their needs." Veilira studied him. "A test of unity. We will go as equals." She sealed her cloak at the neck, ready for the journey. Their first stop was the village of Rivermarch. Humans there feared elven healers. They thought magic would replace their folk remedies. Kale met with the village elder by the riverbank. He tasted bitterroot tea and asked about their troubles. When the healer arrived, Veilira invited her to work side by side with Sarah, who now traveled as their royal physician. The two women mixed elven herb magic with human medicine, curing a sick calf together. The villagers watched in wonder as steam and song eased the animal's pain. By nightfall, songs of gratitude rose around the campfire. Next, they rode to the Forest of Whispers, home to an isolated elven clan. The elves lived high in living tree homes. They distrusted human carpenters, fearing they would cut down the sacred woods. Kale climbed the twisting ladders and offered wood from fallen trees, carved into simple chairs. Veilira spoke of the rebellion she once led, explaining how humans had saved her people from war. Slowly, the clan's leaders agreed to join them in building a shared lodge on the forest floor. As they hammered beams together, human and elf voices blended in laughter and song. On the third day, news arrived of bandits near the border. A human patrol had vanished. Without hesitation, Kale and Veilira rode to the hills. There, they found both human and elven soldiers trapped in an arrow ambush. Working together, they organized a rescue. Lyra led the elves through hidden paths, while Torrin guided the humans in simple shield formations. Under the glow of their combined efforts, the soldiers broke free. When dawn came, they pledged to guard the realm as one force, not two. That evening, Kale and Veilira returned to Kael'Daris. Before the council, they reported their journey. Unity is not built in palaces, Kale said. It grows in every village and forest and battlefield where we choose to trust. Veilira added, every challenge we faced together made us stronger. In the hall, elves and humans stood, eyes shining with hope. The road ahead would be long, but for the first time, they believed they would walk it together. And under the lantern light, Kale and Veilira shared a quiet smile, proud that their bond had become the true heart of the realm.